All right, welcome back. So, how's everybody doing with sticking to their rules and their trade plans? Um, if you fall off the wagon, don't worry about it. It's just a matter of being persistent and keeping at it as long as you stay persistent. So, here we're going to set up another trade plan RCKT. And I've been wanting to do some support and resistance. So, we'll start off with something really simple. But always keep in mind the most important part of this is the rules and the trade planning and the consistency and the discipline. And this is all part of an exercise where we're doing 30 trades, where we're planning every aspect ahead of time and then executing. But, we're going to talk about different pieces and components that, will make up a setup. So, like I said, I want to talk about support and resistance a little bit. And there'll be a series. This is going to be something simple. So I'm going to be talking about a piece of market structure called the wash and rinse. Market structure is just right. There's different structures. There's a swing structure. Maybe there's a mountain. Maybe there's a V. It's part of the language of price here. And so we're going to be talking about this thing that's called a wash and rinse. And you'll find it at the bottom of a pivot, or you'll find it at the bottom or top of a range. And it has a process, right? It goes through steps, which means you can follow that process. Now, just to sum things up, when you're looking for true support and resistance, you don't want to be, if price goes through the high, you don't want to be looking at these pivots as some form of support. These are just extremes, okay, right? These are just extremes in here. This is just people getting very excited one way or the other, and there's not a lot of orders defending it. So whenever you're looking for support and resistance, you want to look for the meat of the move, right? Where you have the most touches and action. And that's just proving to you that is where support is. And so we'll talk a little bit about this and ways to utilize it, but let's just first understand it. So I have always looked at it, right? I've noticed markets tend to bang everybody out before they take off. And the way I've learned it way back in the old days was as a wash and rinse. Basically, they're washing and rinsing everybody. And so what tends to happen here is it cleans the books. So for instance, right, price is sitting on this mountain structure, right? And you can see there's buyers. How do you know there's buyers? Well, look, it comes down and then bounces up. There's somebody bought it to bounce it up. Bounce, bounce, bounce. And then whoosh, right? And so what happens during this, and what makes it an interesting structure, and why swings usually take off from here, is because it cleans the books. So anybody who was long is now coming out of their longs really fast and really upset. Anybody who's considering getting short, maybe they got a short bet, hey, is the top in? This is going to embolden them and be their confirmation of a short. And so it'll get the shorts jumping in, it'll get the longs stopping out, thereby cleaning the book out, right? Cleaning the orders up and down the ladder, if you've ever seen this on a level 2. And then comes back up and whoosh, and pretty soon it cleans everybody out, right? It washes and rinses them before heading back up. Now, that's just the process. It has a process that we can follow and learn to see in any chart. Now, I don't want to just memorize this as some sort of trade setup, right? It's one piece, it's one component of market structure. It's one piece that goes with everything, and it's also a good way to understand about support and resistance. All right, so don't just use things as a new toy or an excuse to go banging around trades in a market. Right, we don't want to do that. These market structure lessons, they actually build on each other. And what I really want to get across is the understanding of this meat of the move And then, you'll start to see ways you can utilize this. So it has a process, right? I call it a multi-pivot line. So it's got a few touches where it starts. It's building a shelf and it drops everybody out. Step two, right? This is the shelf. Step two, it zooms through it. Sometimes with a big wide range bar gap. Sometimes you can see just it be somewhat distinctive, or maybe they press them straight out of it. You know, Step three, price comes back and retests that first multi-pivot line, MPL. Now, the reason I call it a process is because a process isn't complete until it's completed the process. At this point, price can very well go down here and it won't be a wash and rinse. I think this is one of the things people make a lot of mistakes about with technical analysis. You have things like head and shoulders. It's not that until it's completed the process. You can follow it along the process, but until it's done, you don't really know that it's going to be that. But it is helpful to make the distinctions, follow it along, therefore you can make some educated decisions about it. So that's step three. Step four is you come back through, zoom back through, right? That's the process. And the final step is you actually make a new high. By then, right, it's definitely too late to do anything. So it'd be something like this. And the final, and then it's a proper wash and rinse. But I'm kind of using this to demonstrate visually the meat of the move in support and resistance. This is an observable distinction you can make in price. Now, some of you might know something like this. It's like a Wyckoff spring or thrust. But these, often come with a lot of rules. But just see it for what it is, right? So it's very similar kind of a thing to a spring or a thrust. And, I don't know all the rules and all about it, but don't get caught up in language. What you're trying to do is maybe see what Wyckoff saw, see what I see what somebody else saw. I mean, I started seeing these before I knew anything about wash and rinse. It's like, oh, look, this happens a lot. So try and see what others see without getting hung up on the instructions. At first, you need the instructions, but just look, boom, 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 boom. And so you can structure a swing on a market here. We can do this. This is what happens when we structure. If we take this and we make a definition that says a new high confirms the swing low. Whoops. A new high confirms the swing low. What happened there? From here, we now have a swing, and we can look for that little pivot component. See if you can see it in here, because you have to learn to see it in relative shapes. So look for the essence. Look for something that's hitting, and it might not always be on the left. It might look like this, right? Boom, 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 boom. Drop. Back through. And it can be helpful to just come over here. You already know this is a pivot. So for learning purposes, it can be helpful to just come over here, kind of zoom in, go bar by bar. Price is coming down. You see it. Oh, look, there's a little bit of action here. See, that would be step one of the process that we don't know that we'll finish. Right? Step one, the multi-pivot line. And don't worry about making the zone perfect. Just get it in here like this. And then see, boom, boom, boom. This would be step two. Right? So it's step two. Now, we don't know that it doesn't keep going. The process says if it's going to be a wash and rinse pivot, it's got to come back and retest next. But you see what's happening, right? Somebody tried to hang on to it around here, and then boom. See that tail? See that tail? Okay. we've identified that resistance. And then boom, right? So step 1, 2, 3, 4, zoom back in. And so how I generally use it is I'd be just, remember our gap lessons? Contract, one structure creates the next. Contract, expand. So I'd be leaning on this to try to get into a trade. Now they don't all work. This one does a pretty good job. But you get the idea, right? You can see, that's the meat of the move. So this becomes your support area, not the edge here. And, if we zoom in like that, you can see, right? There'll be like a little U shape in here. And now we have our pivot component. See him drop it? So we have our pivot component. Now as we look, this is the same as this, is the same as this. And, there's no guarantees for anything, but you can make observations. And, of course, if it goes through, you now understand a level that was very important in this market. And you can make observations as to what this market is doing. Okay, so that was just a quick support and resistance, talking about the wash and rinse. Like I said, the book gets cleaned. Everybody runs out one way. The shorts get in, the longs get out, the book's cleaned, we wash and rinse. And then just the fact that we end up back above the whole thing, right, shows something, and therefore it gives us something that we can possibly lean on for a trade. And this takes practice, okay, right? There's a lot of nuances. Like this one, it doesn't go through very nice. Like this one. See how this one goes through? It's beautiful, right? This one's kind of like, please move. But this isn't what my trade's based on. But a lot of times when I'm swing trading, I don't even want to trade the swing. For instance, if I was swing trading this here, a lot of times I don't want to trade the swing if it doesn't have this wash and rinse component to it. Because, I want to see them clean everybody out, because that's what tends to send a market back up. All right, now let's get to the important part of this. I actually started the trade plan here, but let's go ahead and do it. I started it. I think I realized that my mic wasn't on. So that's life. So what I'm going to do is set up orders. Okay, and I'm going to go in. All I did was take this reaction leg. It's part of a setup that I have that has rules. I'm going to go in at the 50% of it, put a stop at 25% of it. That's simple. Nothing special about this numbers. It's an objective set of rules to follow. And rules aren't just a suggestion, right? We need rules for ourselves in a market. So let's get on to the rest of it and actually see if we can place the orders in here. Use our risk reward tool. So somebody asked me about this. So notice this trade plan says 1R in it, right? 1R buy, sell, stop. So I use the same setup, but I might use a different entry. One entry will just have a limit order waiting at the line. One entry will, it's like a confirmation, let the market take me in. And 1R is just a name because from here it would have been 1R. So it's just a name for that. And so we're going to get in exactly at the 2909 line. We're going to put a stop at 2738. And listen, having a plan is very relaxing. I know what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. And everything's already set. I don't need to jump around. I just stick to plan. Everything's set. The position sizing, how I'm going to do everything. And so I can explain to you here, right? I'm getting in here. If it gaps above, no dice, right? I need to get in here. It'll turn into a limit order. If price makes a new low, touches the low before I get entered, I cancel the trade. Rules are rules. I don't care how much I think this is going to do whatever it's going to do. Rules aren't a suggestion. There's no escape. So let's create a limit order or a stop. So we want to buy stop order at 2909. Okay. And we're going to put the stop for this trade at 2738. And we're going to have a 6-to-1 target of 39.65. All trades are going to be managed the same way. It's going to have the same kind of target. So 39.65. We want $500 of risk, right? We're risking 0.5%. All of this is worked out. Don't have to think about it or worry about it. So part of the whole trade planning is documentation, and I enter all of these into a spreadsheet. So you can see these are current. Actually, this one just got triggered and stopped. So we can delete that one. I'll do a review maybe next post. So all of these are what we have pending right now. Okay, Toast BX and now Rocket. So I enter in here. You can see the shares. Make sure everything matches up. My target, I'm going for 6R, risking that amount of points. So that's just part of the documentation. And we'll double check everything. 292 and orders away. Okay. So now keep in mind that if it gaps, your broker might fill you here, so you have to pay attention yourself with your own broker. This is just a paper trading thing. But we will only get in on this line, and there is no after hours trading. Okay, there's no doing this in all orders a day ahead of time, no after hours. The only time I've ever traded after hours was to take advantage of people trading after hours. And that's a hit or miss affair to begin with. All right, so I'll do a few posts on support and resistance, but just keep in mind, just to make it really simple, is that what you're looking for is the meat of the move, where you have the most touches, whether it's a trend line or anything else, right? There's no actual support and resistance at the peaks. These are just people freaking out one way or the other. And so you can look at any chart, and what I've done here is just give a process and identify, one piece of market structure at the bottom of a swing to help us understand support and resistance a little more. And in future posts, we'll talk a little bit more about how to use that. So just look for where you see the most touches, and then from there, does it make a new high or a new low? And that tells you all about who's in control, when, where, and when they quit. All right, so we'll wrap this up. Orders are placed.